type of house is like the seed of this whole modern movement. This neighborhood in particular, it is kind of a throwback to that 50s era. And I actually had lived here before, about 30 years ago.
When I was first looking at this house for Marlene to purchase, I discovered that the entire neighborhood was designed by the architect Edward Fickett. In Southern California, the names that pop out for mid-century modern are Cliff, May, and Neutra. And when I did the research on Edward Fickett, I found out that he is an unsung hero. He has developed 60,000 homes in Southern California.
I came around from the backside, so I didn't approach it from the front, and I just saw like all these bushes, these big bushes in this little house like hiding in behind there. It wasn't really neglected, but it wanted to be itself. It had changed so much with the owners and the time and things that had happened to it that it really wanted to come back to its essence and start again, like a renewal.
Oh yeah, I always look at something like this like it's got potential. In fact, sometimes it's better to get a place like this where it's all uniform, and so to tear into it and redo it, it's a little easier to work with.
Oh yes, oh yes. We had a very fun team of people. So I was here working with my dad and my mom and Nick, who was doing our drywall, and he's just so fun to be around. I mean, sometimes you would come though and he'd be like sunbathing in the backyard in like a Speedo, which is a little hilarious.
Joe is really unique in that this is not like his regular job. He's a toy designer. And so we really connected on the design aspects.
Just there's so many little details that I know and I see that no one's ever gonna see, but what's good is they don't see them because now it just feels good.
My house starts before you pull in the driveway. By the way, the shrubs and the trees and the type of landscaping we selected, it begins to pull you in to know that something different is happening here. I hope that it looks bright and cheery and inviting.
So what's important when you walk into a mid-century modern, I believe this is the way Fickett wanted it to be, is that the first thing you do is you go, ah. But walking into this house with Marlene and understanding her design aesthetic really just let us get all of the clutter out and get back to the core root of what this house was supposed to feel like. She really produced a little gem, a piece of artwork.
To me, it's the glass. It's all the glass, because it brings the outside inside. So you don't feel like you're closed in. You feel like everything's kind of open and fresh and light and airy.
Well, now the space is open and we, still have the iconic fireplace that really anchors the living room and actual whole living space. Coming around the fireplace, there's a wall of windows looking out to the backyard. As the sun sets, the light comes filtered through those trees into the home, and it's just filled with light, and it's gorgeous.
Because the sun and the moon, they start on one side of the house and it moves around and comes down on the other. So these clear story windows that are up above, you get the morning in the front and you get the evening in the back, and the quality of the light changes. So you go from the cooler morning light to like the late afternoon, it comes in very warm, almost like a yellow light, and then towards sunset, it actually gets like a coral color. There are 3 bedrooms in the house. There's also a flexible space that could be a bedroom. And each one has its own unique character. There's one that's in the front of the house that gets all the morning light. Then there's one in the back of the house that's kind of in the north corner, so that's kind of very dark and cave-like. And then the master gets the morning light over the vegetable garden, and it gets a little bit of late morning coming in the front side.
It just has a nice feel, and you get to look out onto the garden, and the garden is thriving. There's lots of good vegetables out there.
What's important when people live in a house, and they don't necessarily know this cognitively, but it is how they feel. And when you have natural light coming in, it makes you feel relaxed. And I think that's why there's been a revival, is because people do want to bring the natural elements back into their living area. This house is roughly about 1,600 square feet. It lives like 2,000 because it allows the outside to come in.
I'm happy to point it out to people that I bring around. Every now and then I'll drive around the area with somebody that hasn't seen the place, and I'll drive by and say, "What? See that? What do you think of that?" And
I think Ed Fickett would be really jazzed. I think what would really fascinate him would be how his ideas from like the 50s have evolved